I used to think the future would finally save me somehow, that eventually life would open up and I'd finally feel like myself again. But the deeper I went into this healing journey, the more I realised I wasn't really searching for a new life. I was trying to return to parts of myself I'd slowly drifted away from. Now, at the start of this healing journey, I just wanted to stop my mind spiralling. I wanted to try to stabilise my nervous system. And I wanted to try to get over the heartbreak of splitting with my wife. Now, at the time, I kind of started looking for daily habits, things that I could just get out my mind and into my body, because that was the problem. I was just too much in my mind all the time. And for me, the job that I was doing, truck driving, long hours on my own, just with my own thoughts. So when you go through that kind of heartbreak, that pain, everything just comes up in your head. It's what was the last words that she said? What can I do differently? How could I change? Now that's what was the start of my healing journey. Now, going through this, obviously I started at the same time as doing my YouTube channel, because I wanted a bit of a kind of, as I said, getting out your mind and trying to distract your thoughts. Now, there was some phrase that my wife said to me before, actually quite a few phrases that's actually really stuck in my head, because by the end of it, she just said, "I don't want to see you ever again," and then blocked all contact. So all the words that she said, especially the last kind of 9 months and stuff, they really just sunk in, because she had taken away her voice. The questions that I had, there was no answers. So all I could think of was the words, the phrases that she said, and that's what kept spiraling in my head, basically. So one of the biggest ones was, I can't be with somebody just for their potential. Now, for me, I've actually got a ton of potential, and through my own life experience, that's given me the proof for me to say that at this moment in time. And for me as well, that I've got all these big dreams, these visions of what I want to build, and I can see the person I am building that. Now, when she says I can't be with somebody just for their potential, it made me realise there was a massive gap between the person of me in the vision of building everything what I want to do, and the person I was showing up day to day with my wife. And that gap was absolutely massive. So that's what I kind of focused on. I was like, right, I kind of brought it into small steps, small manageable steps, and I started with some different techniques and principles that I've shared on this YouTube channel. And the first one was, write 25 things that you want to achieve or do in the next 3 to 5 years. Now, you're writing 25 things because you're trying to get everything out your head and onto paper, and then you want to put it in chronological order of when you'd like to achieve them. Now, the reason that it's quite a good exercise is because it's you consciously choosing the activities or things that you want to do, and you're seeing it in paper. So for me, that was the start of me getting back with this gap, because the things that I consciously chose were the things that I saw myself building. They were the things that I saw myself in the future of me doing, but it was just small things as well. Like, for me, exercising, starting this YouTube channel, because that was part of my vision. I even, the first one I wrote last July, it was like writing a book. Now that's what I'm doing just now, I'm writing the book. I actually spoke about it in the last video of marrying your time up. So for me, I'm recording a video to post on YouTube, which is basically a chapter of my book. Now, at the same time, I'm coming out, recording it, walking, going for a wee forest walk. So this is about marrying up your time. And what I started to do was starting to add small daily habits in each day, and then I just added a new one each week. Now that was the steps for me building that gap, like towards that kind of person of me in the future, the vision that I've got. Now when I did this healing journey, I started going down a lot of kind of memory parts as well, because yeah, there was another exercise that I did, is write 25 moments of coherence. Now the reason you would do that is because you're trying to remember times in your life that you're passionate about your job, or you were on holiday, you were with friends, that you had your flow on, your good communication, good conversation, and you're like magnetic, like the opposite sex was attracted to you and all that kind of stuff as well. Now the reason you're kind of writing this kind of thing is so that you could try to see if there's any patterns of why you're actually, why you're aligned, why you were passionate, what made you magnetic. Because that was the part for me, was trying to discover the gap, discover the times that I had my flow again. Because for a while there I was lost in my job. I spoke about it in the last video actually, that I just thought that was the biggest thing that I had to change, was my job. But what I actually found, it was actually my job that I needed to change. It was actually what I was doing with my free time. Now that's been the biggest epiphany for me, is when I started doing the 8-8-8 principle. So 8 hours sleep, 8 hours work, and it leaves you 8 hours for yourself. Now I was stuck, I was depressed for so long, because I thought that the 8 hours of work was the one that I had to change. But I wasn't doing anything else with my other 8 hours. I was just scrolling on my phone, not doing anything, and not really participating in life. Now, this is part of like the things that my wife said to me as well. Because yeah, like, I can't be with somebody just for their potential. Now, I've shown it in glimpses of the person that I am. Jolly John, wee Righto to friends. And there was actually a moment the other day actually, that my mum and my aunt said to me that they remind, like my nephew reminds them of me when I was a kid. And I was like, what do you mean by that? And they were just like, there's just a look of him, the mannerisms and stuff. So I went round and saw him, and I got it. I actually saw myself in him. And it was that I just looked in his eyes and he just started smiling. And then when he came up and gave us a big hug, it was just full of joy. Now, my grand's brother used to call me Wee Happy when I was a kid. That was the first kind of like outward reflection of who I am, like my soul as such. Now obviously, like, my wife used to call me Jolly John, and my friends, like, with an endearing name, Wee Righto, like my surname's Wright. But it was, that's the person that I am deep down, and I lost that. I was just coming out in like glimpses of him every now and again, and that's what my wife saw. She's like, I could see the potential in you, but you're not consistently being that person. Now, that's what's tough, because I've got myself back. I've worked on this kind of, going through this healing journey, unpacking it all, finding out things, because for a while there, I thought I had to become someone new. But through this healing journey, the biggest lesson is that I'm actually not becoming someone new. I'm trying to remember who I truly am deep down, and then get rid of all the bad habits and addictions and intensity and the negative things that sometimes you pick up along the way that stop you from being you. So like, I've done so much work on myself now, and I feel as if I was with my wife now, everything would be fine, amazing and stuff. But yeah, there's another word she said, another phrase is too little too late. And she always says as well that if she ever splits up with somebody, she'll never go back with them. So it's a tough one to have. And there's another wee story that I when I did these kind of 25 coherent moments, and obviously looking back in my childhood of wee happy and stuff. Now, when I was younger, my gran and my grandpa, and also my uncle, used to live up in Aviemore. So that was like my childhood, my fond memories, that every second weekend, holidays, summer holidays, school holidays, I would go up to Aviemore and just be out in nature. And like, up there you can drink out the rivers, like you could see salmon like going along the rivers, deer, red squirrels, like just even the air tastes different up there. Now, that was my childhood growing up. Like, I always remember as well that like my grandpa used to just drive about because he wanted to see, like just explore, and I loved being with him. And I used to just randomly say, right, Pap, stop the car, and then he's like, what is it? And then I just ran up some random hill as if like something is up there waiting for me. It was just like freedom, like being that inner child. Like, that's what it was actually. I loved about it. Now, for a while there, actually, like before I met my wife, I wanted sunshine, because Scotland is beautiful, but it's not got consistent sunshine or weather. And then also the midges as well. But for me, for a while, when as I said, like when I first met my wife, I wanted to live in like Ibiza or Bali or Australia, somewhere that's sunshine, because when the sun's out, everybody's happy. You can come outside and all that kind of stuff. But there's a story that from my childhood that being up in Aviemore with my gran, my grandpa and my uncle, that there's a wildlife park up there. And I remember one time when I was 10 years old that I locked eyes with a wolf, and both of us just stopped and paused. And then I was like, right, I kind of started moving one way and it started following me. And then I went another way and it followed me again. And then I started running up and down, like from the enclosure. Obviously I was on the other side of the fence, obviously. But that moment stayed with me. And like my grandpa were just standing back, and my uncle as well, just like smiling, just like seeing pure joy and like having a connection with a wolf. Now, the reason I kind of brought this up is because when I met my wife, before I never even told her this story, but she basically says that her dad gave her and her sister and her mum all Native American Indian names. Now, and it was obviously something that was significant, or like kind of they did or they saw, and hers was ran with a wolf. Now it's like, what's the kind of chances that that's going to that's going to be like a story like of your wife and stuff. And as I said, I've just spoke about like us splitting up, and like for me having heartbreak, because she is the love of my life. And when I went through this healing journey, I'm trying to heal myself, but I'm coming up with stories that actually make me think that we are meant to be with each other, and we are meant to be like each other's person. Now that's one phrase she said as well, that you're not my person. So going through all these like stories and stuff, because it's not just that she always said that one day she wants to live in Scotland. Now she's English, and I moved down to York to be with her, but that's what she said. And then we used to come out for walks and stuff, and I never really did like forest walks or come out in nature before. I was always just like living in cities and just, yeah, even a beach, I like the beach kind of thing. But she started making me fall in love with Scotland again, with being in nature. And in this story about the wolf, it's like there's a deeper connection with that. Now, if you look at the twin flame kind of like spiritual kind of thing as well, it's saying that there is maybe just a karmic reason that people come into your life and then they just walk away again. But when I looked, like when I first met her, she had a friend that basically she says, oh, I think I've met my soulmate, but I don't know if it's soulmates. And then her friend, she actually says, it's your twin flame. So when I looked up about like twin flames, and I've done a deep dive recently, it is that like twin flames, it's like this karmic path that you're meant to come together. And normally when you find each other, you normally are a bit like level, and then normally one person goes up one way and another person goes down the bottom. And it's like, yeah, it's just like a journey of like trying to build yourself, like try to like, yeah, change your life for the better basically. So for me, my path was the one that was going down, and hers was the path that was going up. So when we first got together, she was a school teacher and she didn't like her job, so she started transitioning into doing therapy and running her own business. So she started like kind of finding her path, her passions, her purpose in life, and I really lost myself. Now, with the twin flames, the story goes that most people, like 80%, break up, and there's not that many percentages actually get back together again. But when they do get back together, or if they actually do get back together, then like you've done all the healing, you have came back, you have understood each other, and yeah, like it can work out. So yeah, that's a bit of hope, but yeah, it's a tough one. All my friends and family are just saying, nah, there's no chance. But for me, it's just like, as I said, the connection. Like, these are not, because I'm quite deep anyway, quite spiritual and stuff. So like for me, it's like, well, that's not just a coincidence that these stories actually happened, that she made me fall back in love with Scotland, that she said she wants to live in Scotland in the future. Her Native American Indian ran with a wolf, like going out for forest walks, and yeah, just being like the most enjoying times that I remember having, where just holding each other's hands and going out for walks and being dead like silly, like your inner child again. Like we used to walk about in town and stuff, and yeah, like everybody used to kind of stare at us because we were like just be so jolly together and that. So for me, I had that and I lost it because of the gap that I was kind of showing up as. And as I said, like I've done all this kind of work now of building myself back up, and looking back on these kind of stories of like in like Scotland, falling back in love with Scotland, it actually started like me going down that kind of journey of what Scotland meant to me. So I started, like I've been to the Isle of Harris before, Lewis and Harris, and I remember going up to Stornoway, and there was a picture of a ferry, not a ferry, like a big boat, and the caption underneath it was, "This is always a sad day for the community," when the ship came in. And then I read this story underneath it, and the story says that every time people saw the ship come in, they knew they were going to like a family of their community were going to leave forever and they'll never see them again. Now that was really sad. It really hit me like at home, because you start seeing like Scotland is beautiful, but then you start noticing like a bit of degradation with the land, and then segregation with the people. Like the Highland clearances after Culloden, the Battle of Culloden, chased something like 30% of the population of the Highlands out of their like land, basically. Now most of these people immigrated to Australia, New Zealand, Canada, America. So that's why you've got quite a lot of Scottish roots over there. Like you've got the Highland Games and stuff and places like this, and a lot of people are proud to be Scottish heritage. But the land has got a bit of a kind of, it's a bit of a kind of ghostly kind of thing, that you see loads of lands with crofts that have been abandoned and stuff, and then you look to the modern world and you actually see like a kind of modern version of the Highland clearances, and that is when there's no jobs available. All the kids, they grow up, they want to go to university in the cities and they never come back. And then just over generations, that's what's kind of happened. Now, for me, I kind of got into this after I get lost in conspiracy theories for a few years. As I say, I go quite deep with things, and yeah, just how I kind of, when I did the archetype of star signs and stuff, my Mars and Jupiter placements were Scorpio, which is deep passion and like intensity. So instead of thinking there's something wrong with you, I just looked at the kind of planets aligned when I was born, and it kind of gives a bit of a language to explain parts. But yeah, sorry. So the reason I was kind of saying that about the conspiracy theories, because I went quite deep and I kind of went dark with it all, because at the time I was trying to like figure out like power, corruption, manipulation at the top of governments and stuff. Like who wrote the history books and stuff like that. So I did go quite deep with that, and what I kind of concluded was that I basically took it too far and thinking everybody was evil, and I realised that there's a thing I spoke about in the last video, is that you get your personality from the 5 people you hang about with the most, but that's also the content that you consume and the like media and books that you read. So for me, I was just regurgitating all the information of conspiracy theories and stuff when I was meeting people, and I realised my energy was really off with it. So I changed from looking into the kind of darker paths, and I kind of thought of a pendulum, and pendulum is just like going from one extreme to the other. And so instead of thinking there's so much evil in the world, that think of there is so much good. And then for me, I was saying that I want to start finding these people, find them on YouTube, people that are doing really kind of environmental stuff, like bringing like really cool business ideas, doing something. Because what I came to realise is that governments aren't the ones that are going to change the world. They basically just take your money and basically divvy it back out to like who needs paid, like roads, keep everything going. The only change, the real change in the world is going to happen from people like me and you, entrepreneurials, people that have actually got visions, that are actually going to build something that can change the world. Now, I feel as if there's a lot of people just have their kind of faith put into the government that that's what they're going to do, they're going to change. Like, do you know what I mean? So it's like, it's all wrong. And I think maybe that's what the governments and people in power have kind of wanted to do, because then it means that it takes the power away from the people, from the individual. Because when I did get lost in those conspiracy theories, I thought there was a one world government, one kind of group controlling everything. But the conclusion for me was that there isn't any group. That if you think of the people that have got massive egos in the world, they don't work well with each other. So how can they have a one world government if they wouldn't work with each other well? So for me, that's what I realised is like, it's actually just a bit of chaos, that just every single person in the world is putting their own kind of tuppence worth, and that's the way the kind of world is going. So yeah, my conclusion was that there isn't one world, there isn't one kind of people in power, but it's like, what that allows you to do, I think, is that it gives power back to the individual. It means that you can make a difference. You can actually change something in the world. You can actually, build something. And this is where I'm going with it. Because for me, I realised, hiya doggies. Hi there. Yeah, for me I realised that I can make a difference in the world. And that's when I started having all these visions. So instead of thinking, what's wrong with the world, I started looking at problems I can solve. Now, the reason I've kind of taken you along this long thread is because it comes back to Scotland, it comes back to like my lived experience, it comes back to the Stornoway, that museum where it says it was a sad day when the ships came in, taking away the community, taking away, like the land has lost stuff. And then obviously, as I said, like you can't rely on governments or politicians to make any change. So you've got to make the difference. You've got to change. Now, I feel as if I've got a responsibility to the world because I think like this, because I've unpacked it. And this is where my visions really got into the kind of depths of things. Because like when I look back about like Scotland, connection with my wife, connection with nature, that's what a lot of people are missing. Like for me, doing truck driving, it was just a monotonous job, driving along roads and stuff, and I'm not enjoying it. Whereas when I worked in hospitality, I worked in all the busiest places because there was a buzz about the place, there was an atmosphere. And once there was a good atmosphere, my flow was better. I was quicker at the job, I was efficient. Like I think I told a story about when I worked in the social that there was two managers and one of them didn't like me. And she said to the general manager, what do you see in John? And then he just says, look what he's doing. And then she's like, yeah, but he's just chatting away, like enjoying himself, not doing any work. And then he went and took her to the computer screen, and that's where all the sales were. Now, if you looked at everybody else, they're all sweating, like putting their head down. And I'm like £300 more than everybody else. And I'm just chilling, laughing, smiling, chatting to people. And it's like, that's what happens when you've got that kind of, the flow on, you're efficient, you're enjoying your job. But for me, it was the atmosphere. Like on a Sunday in that social, it was unbelievable. It was, we had funky house music. There was live saxophone and live bongo drums. And there was like a wee bell to like ring if you got a tip and stuff. So like for me in the front of it, everybody's like 3 deep at the bar, crazy atmosphere, and just like you're kind of part of the atmosphere, you're creating it. Now that's for me that there's 25 coherent moments. Now go to truck driving, it's the absolute opposite. You're on your own, there's no atmosphere. And that's what, when I looked at the opposites of like the kind of governments, and like for you as an individual, you can actually build something, create something. And that's what I've unpacked about my life. It's like, if I look at my own life as a story, which I have done in this healing journey, unpacked all the wisdom, but what I realised is I did that exact same for the vision of what I want to build. Because I want to build holiday resorts. But when you just say holiday resorts, it doesn't sound that great. It sounds as if you're just trying to make money, it's going to be luxury and stuff. But for me, it's like the deeper layer. Like for me, it's always got deep layers. The deeper layer underneath it is building community, restoring the land, like buying like, I don't know, 1,000 acres of land. And I think I spoke about it as like different ideas of like planting celebration forests. That somebody's birthday, they can come and buy a tree and then they plant it, and then they've got a wee plaque on it say that was for like John's birthday in 2027 or something, and then you see it grow, and then you could like bring like loads of cool trees and stuff. And then yeah, like I even went down this thread with AI, ChatGPT, like I do. I was like, what you could do at night is you could have like LEDs all over the forest that it connects to like a kind of artificial intelligence, and anytime an individual walks through the forest, it starts like creating some cool thing, and it's tailored to the individual. Now these are like ideas that I'm like, look, once you've just got like do you know what I mean, a place like a holiday resort and a piece of land, then the creativity can come out. And that's what I've realised, like unpacking my life, that I was in Australia, I was in Byron Bay. Sorry for this video being too long, by the way, but yeah, I was in Australia, I was in Byron Bay, and that was a moment, a coherent moment for me, quite a lot of them actually. That I was just every day, like I woke up and I was just really creative with what we want to do today. Because when I was younger as well, I was a Club 18 to 30 rep. Now I wasn't really great at it, but it gained me the skills and the concept that if I became one again when I was older, I would have been amazing. Because I actually just did that automatically in my like kind of like Australia days and stuff. Like we went round to the backpackers and said to people, do you want to come for an adventure? Bring some wine. Obviously back in the day I was still drinking a lot. But my friend had a truck, and there was one time, yeah, he's got a truck, so it was like 3 seats in the front, and then at the back of it, it was like a high wheelbase, and you lift up the shutter, you climb in, and there's a 2-man kayak and a single bed. And the most we had one day was 17 people in this truck. And at the time I was dating a local girl, so I knew all these private beaches and stuff. So we used to like drive outside of Byron Bay, park up, and like walk 20 minutes down to this like alcove. And when we got there as well, we kind of said to people, I was like, right guys, just to let you know, it is a naked beach, but you don't have to get naked, but we will. And me and my friends were like totally stark naked, and people that have just never met us before like, what the heck? So yeah, that was a bit fun as well. But the point was, it was like just being creative with just your mind. So for me, that's like doing truck driving. It's just been me on my own with all these kind of trying to think of solutions to problems. Why is people in the world disconnected? Why is people doing jobs that they're not enjoying? Why can everybody not just like, do you know what I mean, like be tailor-made to do a job that they're actually that we're aligned with, that is meaningful, that they're passionate about, that there's purpose to it. Now this is like, for me, as I said, if I had some land, build a holiday resort, obviously you need to create jobs, so you need to have a place, and obviously you want a place for people to come, and then you're building a bit of a community. But if you've got some land, as I said, like those wee ideas of the forest, the wee walks, like I want to like get involved with your kids again, get that inner child back, like start doing like cool like 4x4 and like quad bike racing, bicycles, like just start, like for me, I want to go and visit all the kind of adventure parks and cool places just for ideas that once I have a bit of land that I would incorporate that in my land. So a bit like a kind of one-stop shop for everything. Now, I've spoke about it before, about Scotland, the problem being the weather and the midges. So my idea is to like, well, if it's raining all the time, like there's people doing the North Coast 500 and they're just like in a camper van, and then I've seen a few videos that they just rush around the route because it's raining. So if there's a place for people to gather, then they would more likely to linger, and then in the morning the rain would be gone. So for me, I'm like, well, why don't you just build big domes, big places that, yeah, like it feels as if you're still outside but you're inside. Even like plant some like trees inside it and stuff. But then just like, for me, as I said, I quite creative, like designing indoor beaches and water parks. And have you ever seen the thing called the Vegas sphere, where they've got that kind of projection inside and outside? So yeah, this is like the vision that I've had in my head for a long time. So the person that I saw of building that vision was like a leader, like hiring so many people. Like I really like Richard Branson. His philosophy is that your biggest resource is your staff, because they're the actual first port of call to the customer. Now, I understood that massively when I worked in hospitality, because it's the staff, it's you, it's me that actually builds the atmosphere. Like, I've done that so many times. So for me, I like that philosophy, as in treat your staff as your biggest resource. And as I said, like, instead of people doing a job that they don't enjoy, why don't we just work with people? Like for me, I'm like, right, if I've got a bit of land, I want to do a kind of retreat. So like a men's retreat or women's retreat or whatever. And then do some like healing, do some work, do all these things that I'm writing in my book and in this YouTube channel, unpacking your coherent moments, thinking about the 888 principle, finding time, start finding purpose and meaning in life again. And then instead of us just going, right, we've got a job, and then interview like 100 people for that job, I'm like, well, why don't we just work with a person that we really got on with, that they kind of really enjoy like our concept, our brand, and then actually see where you would actually fit in better. What kind of job would you find as if it's your purpose, your meaning, and just like really be a bit more future orientated with business. Because as I said, you can't rely on governments to change the world. And we're in a world that, like, if there was massive changes and stuff like that, it's not going to come from the companies that are already out there building and doing that. They've had their chance. Now we need to create new visions, new ideas of concepts that will actually change how people come together, like create atmosphere, feel meaningful, feel purpose, feel connected. Now from me, all my life experience, like as I said, working in hospitality, traveling, like my favourite times has been when it was like there was music and like every walk of life all together. Now that's what I'm wanting to build. It's not just a resort, it's actually like a community, an atmosphere, a place, a gathering. Like with Scotland, like the potential of Scotland is massive. The same as the potential of me is massive. It's like you could create your own Highland Games. Did you know that you can actually design your own tartan as well? So we could like have ceilidhs and have our own tartan that people can rent out for the day and stuff, and we could do all those kind of cool dances and stuff, and yeah, festivals and you name it. But yeah, sorry, I've just went into it because this is me. I'm so passionate about it. That's what I want to create. That's what I want to build. The person that I saw myself building that, the potential of that, like that's what my wife said. Like, and that's who I'm trying to become. Actually, I'm becoming through all these kind of principles and stuff that I spoke about in this video. Now I feel as if I'm rushing this video now at the end because it's 40 minutes long and I talk a lot. But when you're talking about something you're passionate about, you cannot help yourself. Now, I did actually have a whole like script and stuff of what I was going to talk about, but I got distracted and just started speaking. So yeah, how do we bring it all together? So yeah, that is the vision of what I'm kind of wanting to build, and that is me closing that gap, because the problem with the vision is it's just in your head, it's future orientated, it's not real. I'm waiting for some external things that would allow me to build it, but it's been a long time coming. So that was the problem as well. I just put my life on hold waiting for that, waiting for my vision to materialise for me without me actually doing anything towards that. Now, with this healing journey since December, really, 6 months, that's what I've built on. I've started closing that gap, and that was just from me going through the healing journey, the heartbreak, trying to get out of my mind and into my body, finding all these kind of small principles, like the 888 principle, realising that life is actually about the time outside of work. That's the most important part. What you do, who you meet. Because like when I look back upon my life, as I said, the most coherent moments I had was speaking to people and being in community and music and festivals and all that kind of stuff. That's what I need to start doing again. In the last video I did say that's what I'm going to start doing, is bringing joy into this YouTube channel and start sharing and showing you things rather than me just talking. Because yeah, with this YouTube channel I can see it's not really been building, it's not necessarily gaining any traction. And what I've realised is that the videos or the channels that are gaining traction are about people showcasing, showing what their life is, instead of talking about it. Because that's, for me, I've talked a good game all my life, but I've never actually showed the potential. Now, the healing journey is about unpacking it and then understanding, so then you can embody it and start doing things that closes that gap, basically. But yeah, it's a long video, guys, I'm sorry, but I'm gonna leave it there, right? So, Slanjiva, ciao.